Hello and welcome to my reading vlog. I will be reading Yesteryear by Claire Bark. This book has been everywhere. Everyone is reading it. If you haven't heard of it before, this is basically about this influencer trad wife who gets sucked back in time during the time where she kind of idolizes, and it doesn't go super well for her. I feel like I have a very unique perspective on this book. I haven't read it yet, but I am a clinical psychologist and I specialize in religious trauma. It is based on Ballerina Farm, and I believe also this character is Mormon, and that is one of the religions I specialize in. So I feel like I'm gonna have a unique perspective. I also did inpatient psych and other kinds of things. This is gonna be a spoiler video, so fair warning. I'm going to talk about it as I learn information. I'll let you guys know what chapters I'm on, so feel free to read along with me. So I'm very excited for this one. I feel like this book was written specifically for me, so hopefully I actually like it. But either way, I feel like it's gonna be a fun ride. Hello, I am back from the coffee shop and in the kitchen where I belong, specifically by the coffee maker. I got to page 25. I'm gonna actually do it based on pages because she doesn't have traditional chapters, I believe. But I got to page 25. My initial thoughts so far, I am hooked already. I do feel like Natalie, the main character, she is such a good interpretation, or no, she's such a good example of when very religious conservative women have a lot of ambition. She is very smart, she is very talented, but it's such a good example of when you have so much ambition and you're such a type A person, but you're in a culture where that's not really allowed in the boss babe kind of way. And it's yeah, she's really smart. She's really good at what she does. And I kind of appreciate that. I think she doesn't necessarily see it as a business, though it's very much a business. She does and she doesn't. It's very interesting. And you are already seeing some of the family vlogger, but also kind of the Duggars, people who have a lot of kids. Her oldest child is Clementine. You're seeing bits and pieces of Clementine's doing this mother role. Clementine's putting them in their car seats. Clementine's doing this and that. And Clementine also has her own thoughts and opinions. She's very interesting because she has the angry woman in her head. She's very much seeing her life through that perspective of these angry women online, and is not really living her life at all, but looking at her life through the perspective of other people, and is very much what would they think of this, what would they think of that. I think is very relatable to a lot of people in general, of you're seeing your life through the perspective of another person. I am gonna read until I have to go to work, but I'm probably gonna want to read some more because she is a good writer. And if you haven't heard of her story, Caro, she has a podcast. It's a very good podcast. She has been writing for a long time. Nothing's gone picked up, and because of social media, she actually got this book deal. I'm inspirational story. Hello, it is so sunny out, so I just took chai outside and I was like, oh, it's really freaking nice out right now. So I think I'm gonna make an iced coffee and then bring out my book and read out here because I feel like it's good weather for reading. Wow, this I look beautiful. I love this lighting. Me and my farm. Oh, let me show you my farm, actually, if we're gonna do trad wife things, because I'm growing I have a tiny little garden. This is my potted garden. This tomato plant, I'm actually really proud of myself because last year I got one tomato and then it completely died. But I realized you just have to put it in like a giant pot. That seems ridiculous when you buy it. Like the pot, the size of pot you want to get is like you're gonna be embarrassed by it, right? So like that's same thing with this cage thing. You're gonna be like, this is way too big. It's never gonna grow that big. That's the size you want to get. So free gardening tips. And then I have chives. I have 2 strawberry plants. I have basil, and then the marigold is supposed to help with like pests. I don't know. These bags I put on the strawberries so the squirrels don't get to it. So yeah, here's my dog. This is I'm so trad wife. Look, I'm like making my own food. Comment down below what I should grow next, because I really don't know. I was thinking snap peas. So I feel like that's like an easy one to like snap off and like eat. I don't want to do something that's like potatoes where I have to like dig through the dirt. I don't want to do that. I made it to a little over 50 pages. I actually am on chapter 4. There are chapters. I was wrong, but she is now back in like 1855 or whatever it is. And these children, they're creepy. They're weird. They give me the creeps. It makes me feel like this might be like some sort of like Matrix situation or like a virtual reality situation, because the children are very knowing, but also, yeah, they're just giving me like creepy ghost vibes or like robot vibes. So still liking it. The children are creepy. I do like the name Maeve. I think that's the name. Maeve. That's one of the children's name. Also Clementine. To be fair to Natalie, all the names of the kids are like pretty good. It's not a like Brex Leland or anything like that you would think she would have. So the names aren't bad. I give her credit on that one. I need to start working. See you guys in a minute. Good morning. It is the next day and I am cutting flowers again. Trad wife. I finished chapter 17 last night and I have some thoughts. I apologize, the robot vacuum goes every morning because I have a golden retriever and that's the only way I can do it. I could not do it if this was 1855 or whatever, but these are my thoughts so far. I am liking kind of like the flashback, not to 1855, honestly, that part of it is like not that interesting to me, but the flashback of like when she met her husband Caleb. Sounds familiar. I'm pretty sure Caleb is like Valor Uniform's husband's name, but I might be wrong. You are in these very traditional communities. There are certain things that are like unsaid rules or expectations. Like it's assumed that the wife is going to stay home with the baby and sacrifice and like give up certain things and to be submissive, right? And it's assumed that the husband is going to have a job and, you know, be respectable in that kind of way. And when one person doesn't live up to that standard, the whole thing kind of falls apart, right? Because if the husband is not working, like Caleb is not working, even if they have money, right? It's embarrassing to Natalie, and she becomes like no longer submissive because she's like, you need to do something, then that kind of detangles the whole this like traditional role. And instead of like being like, yeah, like please help me out with the kid, like that would be very helpful, she can't like go outside of this like very black and white thinking of like gender roles, and it's like, no, you can't do that either, you're not going to be helpful. So they're kind of like stuck in this way. When you have very traditional societies, if the man is not living up to his assumed role, right, there's not that many repercussions usually, unless they are like financially struggling, then people will say something. But if they're not financially struggling, you really have, like, if he has family money, like he does have, he can't just be a baby for forever. And there are no repercussions for that. But if the woman does not, there's nothing like that for the woman, right? And I think Natalie is realizing this, and she's stuck because she still has this like very black and white thinking. I think we're gonna kind of like realize how she makes this work for her with her husband kind of being a child, actually being a child. So that's interesting to me. Honestly, the 1855 timeline is not super interesting. It goes by fast enough. A lot of food there. I also find it interesting that, and I don't know if this is true, actually true for the time period, there's like no community, and I feel like there still would be. I think they say all these stories about we're out on our own, blah blah blah, but I don't really find that, like, this is not based on any sort of like facts or history, but I feel like probably everyone had some sort of community, people stopping by, like helping each other out. Like there would have been like a doctor or something, or somebody who knew something. That's what makes me feel like it's like a simulation, is that there's just the family. These are my flowers. They don't look like much now, but they're gonna bloom. Morning, I made it to I finished chapter 30 last night. Means I made it to page like 217. So a little bit over halfway through. I think I'll probably finish it today or tomorrow. I know that Ballerina Farm is Mormon. I think the author made her just like generally Christian, of like could be Pentecostal, could be Baptist, but not necessarily Mormon. There's a few reasons why I don't think she is Mormon, just because of our in-laws, like very like they're like having coffee all the time. The mother drinks, which can happen. The drinking seems a little bit more like, oh, I'm probably, and the dad is like a politician and talks about like getting a beer and stuff. So he would not do that if he was Mormon. They wouldn't have coffee, like let her have coffee so easily. Yeah, I don't think she's Mormon. Obviously, her going back in time to like 1855, I was like, I feel like this character would think that this is like a test from God. I don't understand why she thought it was like a reality TV show, but now that I'm at going into like chapter 31, she just is now like, oh, this is a test from God. I'm like, okay, good. This feels like what the character would think, that this is a test and that she has to graciously go about her life as God would want her to. I thought this like theme that keeps on coming up of like this being perceived, imagining yourself as being perceived, it was very interesting, thinking about like being an influencer, but also like religion, right? And like a lot of religions, you are constantly perceived by like God or your version of God, right? So I thought that was interesting, of this like, okay, the way that she copes, or her mom tells her to cope with life, is like, imagine that like other people are watching you at all times and like applauding you or not. That made a lot of sense to me as well. I really like that as like a theme, because that is something that like I see when I work with people with religious trauma, is like this idea that like somebody's always watching you, sometimes with like religious psychosis that can happen as well, of like this idea that like you're being watched, regular psychosis as well, like this idea that, you know, that it becomes this kind of like extreme version of it, of like you are constantly being watched by God and God is sending you these messages, and it's becoming this like more extreme version of like a normal religious experience. Oh, one thing that honestly really did actually bother me, I think it was on chapter like 29 or 30 or something. It was recently. And it was the husband is like, they bought the farm. He's like on these like internet forums on Reddit or whatever about like farming and all these things. And he's like, I'm in the manosphere. And first of all, this was supposed to be like I don't know, let's say like 2014, 2015. Like this was supposed to be years ago. That wasn't even a term back then. And then also people in the manosphere don't say that they're in the manosphere. And also, at least what it seems, all those sites like farming, even if it's like kind of like conservative Christian men, like that's not necessarily the manosphere. So that honestly, I was like, that didn't make any sense to me. That is one critique that like really bothered me and like took me out of the book, but it's good. Besides that, it's been fairly accurate. Hello, if you're an OG watcher, you probably remember this plant. I had it in my San Diego apartment and it was like all on the walls. When I moved back here in the Bay Area, I was like, oh, let it like fall down, let it be free. It's not doing the best just like being free. So I'm going to put it back on this wall and have the vines go like this way. While I'm doing that, I'm going to actually listen to Yesteryear from where I stopped at the coffee shop. So we're going to put it on Spotify. This is not sponsored, but I've been really liking like listening to Spotify audiobooks from where I left off if I'm driving or I'm doing something, because I have stuff to do. But you don't have to like purchase the full book. You're just doing it like based on like the amount of hours. I think you get like 10 to like 15 hours or something a month. So that's what nope. That's what we'll be doing. So I've finished Yesteryear. I actually gave the book to my friend, so I don't have it physically with me. I really enjoyed it. I did not see the ending coming. I did not think that it was actually 18 whatever. Like, I think I caught on to that pretty quickly. My theories were more of like she was trying to overdose and this was like a substance-induced psychosis slash like dying visualization of like her life. Like she was kind of in like a dream state, which would have been fine. I did actually find that this ending was more interesting than like anything I could have thought of, and really, really, really messed up. I do think, you know, it's like, did she remember? Did she actually know? Right? Like trauma can create like a lack of memory, which is very much a real thing. And it makes it a little bit hard, right? Because you have empathy for her and her husband is terrible. Like I would say her husband is like just as bad, if not worse, than she is. I think because we view him as like quote unquote like stupid, that like he is kind of given a pass. I also felt like, yes, on the surface, this looked like Ballerina Farm. Like this, and she even said, like, this is based on Ballerina Farm. But I really feel like this is way more like the 8 Passengers scandal family vlogger situation. And I think that made me like it more. Like, I do think that, like, the fact that she, like, continued with her husband, and even though it's like, why would you stay with that person? That kind of reminded me of, I can't remember their names, but in 8 Passengers, the wife is the one who's like the really bad person, but the husband definitely has bad things that he's done, and the husband is still like very loyal to her. All in all, I gave it 4 stars. I felt like it did feel a little bit rushed, but I love the concept. I love like the twists and turns. I felt like she did understand like the trad wife, family vlogger, influencer. I feel like the people who that I've seen who really not like the book maybe don't understand satire or believe that she was trying to portray a woman who is a traditional wife and not a trad wife influencer. Like, those are very different things. So yeah, but anyway, those were our my thoughts. What have you read the book? I hope you have, because this had a lot of spoilers. I liked it. I thought it was great. I thought it was a romp. I would love it as like a book club book. So, yeah, I'd love you to support the channel. Give me a like, give me a subscribe, and I'll see ya in the next one. Bye bye.